Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Umahani. I hope this message finds you in good health and spirits. Today, we're about to explore a fascinating remedy, COCCULUS indicus. But before we dive deep into the case study, let's take a brief moment to understand what makes this remedy stand out. Let me tell you, COCCULUS indicus is unlike any other remedy in our materia medica. It walks its own path, speaks its own language, and touches places within us that often remain untouched. You see, we are human beings, not machines. We carry the divine gift of emotions, the ability to feel, to perceive the depth of an experience, to hold on to sensations that defy logic. No matter what kind of emotion we encounter, especially when someone says something hurtful, it may pass from our conscious mind, where we choose what to remember and what to forget. But the subconscious mind never forgets. It tucks that memory away, like a pressed flower between the pages of time. The body keeps the score not just of the event, but of the person who made you feel that way. And just like pain is etched into the soul, happiness too finds its place. There are remedies that can make us laugh, truly laugh, like lachesis or belladonna. They joke, they jest, they fill the room with liveliness and lighten the air. You chuckle, your lips curl into a smile, your body reacts with joy. But then, there is another kind of happiness. The joy that makes your heart smile. And that feeling, that deep, quiet glow, is a rare treasure. Very few remedies in our materia medica can reach the heart like that. They don't just make you laugh, they stir your soul. They don't just heal, they make your heart bloom. And COCCULUS indicus is one such remedy. When this patient talks, there's something inexplicably moving. It's as if your heart, without your permission, begins to smile. It fills with an unspoken joy. A strange, beautiful emotion begins to stir within you. And that is the magic of COCCULUS indicus. COCCULUS is not an ordinary personality, someone who enters your life and leaves without leaving a trace. People with a COCCULUS personality carry such depth and sensitivity that it becomes impossible not to love them. You feel it deep inside, that you can't let this person walk out of your life. There's a saying that says, once someone truly touches your heart, no one else ever feels right again. There's this nostalgia you feel, which is like gently opening a memory box, where every moment you recall wraps you in warmth, yet leaves behind a soft ache of missing them. A bittersweet smile, tucked in time, because sometimes you feel a little pain of missing them. This is deeper understanding and only experienced when God bless you with a COCCULUS personality in your own family. When you're baking a cake, the very first thing you must master is how to create the perfect base, the foundation. Because without a strong, soft, and balanced base, no amount of cream or decoration will make it right. In the same way, before we jump into our case study, we need to first understand the base emotion, affection. Affection is a gentle, tender wave of love, care, and fondness that flows from one heart to another. It's like a mother wrapping her child in a warm embrace without saying a word. She transfers all her love through that silent hug. Or like a friend quietly sitting beside you when they see you sad, not forcing words, but offering presence. Standing by someone in their darkest hour, without asking for anything in return. That too is affection. Remember, affection never shouts. It doesn't make grand gestures or loud declarations. In fact, most times, you won't even see it with your eyes, but you'll feel it deeply, like a soft breeze that touches your soul and stays there. It is subtle. It is emotional. And yet, it weaves the deepest threads of human connection. It is affection that whispers gently, "You matter to me." Now, let's explore the different flavors of affection. A mother's affection towards her child has its own rhythm, protective, nurturing, full of warmth. A father's affection towards his daughter is different, often silent, sometimes strict, but full of pride and deep emotion. The affection between a husband and wife carries the touch of companionship, trust, and emotional intimacy. When you see a little child playing and it brings a smile to your face, that joy is affection in its purest, most innocent form. The affection between close friends, especially same-gender friendships, holds a different charm. It's built on trust, comfort, and countless shared moments. Then there's the kind of affection we feel for our teachers or mentors. It carries deep respect, admiration, and gratitude the kind that makes you want to become better just by being in their presence. Siblings, oh, that's a special kind of affection. You argue, tease, fight over silly things, and yet, you wouldn't trade them for the world. Their presence brings a sense of home. And if you have a pet, say, a cat, you know the kind of affection where you tolerate their mood swings, their tantrums, and still care for them like your own child. Their little demands make you smile. That's another beautiful shade of affection. With every kind of bond comes a unique kind of affection. And when you begin to study different remedies in materia medica, you slowly start to realize each remedy carries its own kind of affection. And it is only when you dive deeper beyond symptoms and rubrics that you begin to understand this emotional signature, this core of the remedy. Because affection is not just an emotion, it's a language. And once you learn it, you begin to hear what your patient is truly trying to say. Take phosphorus, for example. It does offer affection, it reaches out, it connects, it expresses love, but often there's a subtle undertone to it. The affection is conditional, almost like a return on investment. A give-and-take equation. It's warm, yes, but laced with an invisible thread of selfishness. A quiet expectation always lingers in the background. I gave you love, now give me back. Now shift your gaze to Staphysagria. This one carries a completely different brand of affection. It's a kind of love that tries to make others happy at the cost of its own destruction. A self-sacrificing, almost self-erasing love. It's the kind of affection that bleeds quietly behind a polite smile. I've explained this deeply in my short videos, do take a moment to watch them. The nature of Staphysagria reminds us of a suicide bomber, someone who not only blows themselves apart, but also intentionally destroys the people around them. This is often witnessed in tragic domestic abuse cases where the mother, in an attempt to hold the family together, endures silently, absorbs every storm, and in doing so, pulls her children into the whirlwind too. That's what makes it so dangerous. The destruction happens in silence, under the garb of kindness. Because sometimes, suffering politely becomes a prison. Now let's come to COCCULUS indicus. Its affection is deeply motherly, but with a refreshing twist. It's not rooted in self-neglect. In fact, COCCULUS is full of positive self-love. This remedy loves itself in a healthy, radiant way, and that overflow of love, the extra warmth bubbling over, is what it channels into caring for others. It shines and makes others shine too. Its affection doesn't drain. It energizes. Think of a mother carrying a baby in her womb for 9 months. During that time, the womb is the baby's entire universe. And then comes that sacred moment when the mother gently introduces her child to a whole new world outside. She becomes the bridge from the safety of the womb to the wonder of life. That transition, that safe, nurturing, awe-inspiring introduction to something new, that is COCCULUS. This remedy, through its affection and caregiving, creates a space so emotionally nourishing, so quietly transformative, that the person on the receiving end feels like they're stepping into light. They feel seen. They feel safe. And somewhere deep within, they begin to evolve. Because COCCULUS doesn't just care, it curates an environment. One where you begin to see new things. Feel new joys. Notice new versions of yourself emerging. Around such affection, you begin to glow. You begin to bloom. Like they say, when affection is real and deep, a person doesn't just feel loved, they become better. I'll share a personal story after we analyze the case. But for now, let's dive into this beautiful case study. You're in for something amazing. Today's case revolves around postpartum depression, a condition more common than we often acknowledge. Countless new mothers reach out for homeopathic treatment during this phase, often overwhelmed not just emotionally, but physically too, especially due to insufficient milk production and deep emotional lows that accompany it. But before we dive into the case, let's step into the emotional world of a new mother. Imagine a woman who has recently stepped into a new chapter of life. She's just gotten married. A whirlwind of responsibility surrounds her. Her life has gone through a massive transformation, shifting homes, letting go of old habits, familiar surroundings, and stepping into an entirely new environment. Just when she starts adjusting to all of it, she conceives. Even at this stage, the situation is still somewhat manageable. Nothing has hit her with full force yet. But then, the moment arrives she gives birth for the very first time. And suddenly, everything shifts. Her hormones go into a complete upheaval. Internally, she's a storm of chemical changes. Externally, her world flips. Until now, she was used to caring for herself and her family. But now, out of nowhere, there's this tiny, vulnerable life placed entirely in her hands, a baby who doesn't come with an instruction manual, yet demands the most critical care. And there's no buffer, no grace period. She's thrown into this reality. She has no clue what to do, how to do it, yet she's expected to figure it all out. And that's where a certain kind of anxiety begins to take root, not the usual stress of everyday life, but an anxiety that is raw, new, and deeply tied to a life she just brought into the world. All of this, while her body is recovering. Her mind is racing. And here's an important moral note: in times like this, it becomes our responsibility as friends, family, or even society to offer emotional support. Because this is, without a doubt, the most vulnerable stage in a woman's life. She might be surrounded by people, yet feel completely alone. Her mind is flooded with racing thoughts. Anxiety bubbles quietly beneath the surface. All she truly needs is assurance. Not solutions, not instructions, just calm, solid assurance. That she can do this. That she is stronger than she feels. That this storm, too, will pass. Coincidentally, I had two similar cases come to me, both dealing with postpartum depression. Yet, the remedies I gave were different. And that's the beauty of homeopathy, the depth it offers. Because while the situation may look the same on the surface, each patient expresses it in her own unique way. That's where your real learning begins, when you start to listen between the lines. In one case, I prescribed bryonia, and I'll be sharing that case soon. In today's case, I chose COCCULUS. Within just 15 minutes of administering the remedy, the patient reported feeling 70% better. The nausea that had been haunting her disappeared. A wave of calm washed over her. She felt sleepy, but not the exhausted kind, a peaceful, healing kind of sleep. And in just 3 days, her entire tone changed. Her voice, once low and slow, became vibrant and high-pitched, almost as if someone had plugged her back into life. She laughed again. There were no digestive issues. No mental fog. Her milk production started naturally. And most importantly, all the dark, negative thought patterns vanished. She began sleeping well. And then, she had a dream, which we'll explore soon. I was absolutely amazed at how beautifully homeopathy works, especially when you truly understand the patient and select the right remedy. It works not just beautifully, but sometimes, almost miraculously. And if, at any point, you feel that a case isn't improving, don't give up. Go back. Restudy it. Ask yourself, which characteristic symptom did I miss? Because in homeopathy, clarity brings cure. This was an online consultation case of a 26-year-old primipara, and from the very beginning, something felt different. The patient's voice was incredibly low, so low that I found myself constantly leaning into my phone, almost as if I had to dive inside it just to catch her words. She was the first patient I had ever encountered who spoke in such a whispering tone, so slowly, that I had to repeatedly ask her to say things again. Every single sentence needed to be repeated, not because I wasn't paying attention, but because her speech barely made its way across. This is where the magic of case-taking begins, even before the patient starts narrating her complaints. You see, in homeopathy, the case doesn't begin when the symptoms are listed. It starts the moment the patient enters your space, be it virtual or physical. That's why it's essential to observe them with deep awareness. The patient's way of expression often reveals the remedy itself. In this case, her tone, her pace, her hesitation were all speaking louder than her words. There's a rubric: mind answering slowly and mind answering with difficulty. She spoke in an incredibly low voice, taking long pauses, almost like she was dragging every word through a field of exhaustion. When I asked her to begin, she didn't jump into her physical complaints. Instead, she started asking questions about the baby. "Doctor, when should I feed him? Can I give powdered milk? That's how she started. Then she softly added, I just gave birth a few days ago. I'm a first-time mom. Then came her own story, slow, fragmented, and filled with silent suffering. She said, Doctor, I'm not able to sleep, my sleep is totally disturbed. I gently asked her to explain that further. She replied, when I feed the baby, I suddenly feel very hungry, so I eat. But by the time I finish eating, it's already time to feed him again. And this keeps happening over and over. Every time I eat, I feel hungry again almost immediately. Because of this, I've developed digestive problems, nausea, and diarrhea. And the worst part? I can't sleep the entire night. All I want is sleep, but I just can't get it. At that moment, a beautiful rubric came to mind, one that captures this very scenario, anxiety during and after nursing. And interestingly, COCCULUS is the only remedy listed under this rubric. What amazed me was that the patient, without even realizing it, was guiding me toward her remedy step by step, almost as if she were reading out the rubrics one after the other. I was actually enjoying this case deeply. She continued, my milk production is low, and because of the sleep disturbance, I had to start giving my baby powdered milk. That's when I paused. I thought to myself, so many women go through this same cycle, sleepless nights, low milk production, the need to supplement with formula, but what made this particular woman so deeply disturbed by it? That's when I looked into the main entry point of the case. Two main rubrics revealed themselves. The first rubric: ailments from noise. Again, COCCULUS appears as a single remedy. But what exactly is noise? It's not just sound. Noise is not an ordinary thing. It is any unwanted disturbance, something that pulls your attention away from where it naturally belongs, and forcibly drags it elsewhere. It causes distraction. It derails your focus. Let's say there's a strange sound in the background. Even if you're deep in your work, your attention immediately shifts toward it. It hijacks your awareness. That's what noise does. It's not about volume, it's about interference. Now, when you revisit the essence of this case, you realize the patient has been expressing anxiety about noise all along, not literal noise, but the noise of life, the chaos of her situation, the distraction caused by it. And if someone tells you what causes their irritation, what disturbs them most, they are unknowingly revealing their deepest sensitivity. In her case, it was noise. She was so sensitive to every minor disturbance, especially those coming from her baby. Even the baby's needs were causing anxiety. When I asked her how this situation was affecting her, she said something deeply touching. Doctor, I can't give my husband time. Now, mind you, she was currently staying at her mother's home, and her husband had come to visit from another country. Patient said, Doctor, I looked at my husband and said, I am here, but I'm not really here with you. How does that feel to you? That one sentence stopped me in my tracks. It was so layered, so emotional, so profound. And in that moment, the second rubric of the case emerged: mind, recognizing everything but cannot move in catalepsy. Once again, COCCULUS stands as the sole remedy. Let's decode this. Catalepsy is a condition where the body becomes rigid, almost stone-like. Movement becomes impossible. And yet, the person remains fully conscious, completely aware of what's going on. That's exactly how she described her state. She was saying, I see everything. I understand it all, but I'm just not able to move, not able to act. She was frozen by her physical condition. And what was remarkable, absolutely astonishing, was how this patient, at every stage of case-taking, was unconsciously narrating her remedy. Like the remedy itself was speaking through her. And that is where the magic of homeopathy unfolds, when the patient soul starts telling you its story in rubrics, and you simply have to listen with your heart open. She said, whenever my husband visits my mother's place, I always ask him if he wants something to eat. I personally serve him with love. Then she paused for a moment and continued, but this time, it's different. I just can't bring myself to do it. I don't know why, but ever since the delivery and the baby, it's like my focus has completely shifted. I can't pay attention to anything else anymore. At that moment, I was quietly taken aback. Deep inside, I realized she's not just talking. She's unveiling her internal world, layer by layer. What she's actually describing is distraction. Her mind is overwhelmed with noise, the kind of noise that doesn't come from outside, but from within. Unwanted disturbance. Inner chaos. And the most beautiful part? She's explaining all of this unknowingly, yet so precisely in the language of her remedy. I was silently moved. Only a deeply sensitive person could articulate their inner state with such delicate awareness. Patients like her often open up their hearts during the case-taking, not just their mouths. They don't simply describe symptoms, they narrate feelings. Minute details. They paint their emotions with words. And that's where the rubric catalepsy, recognizing everything, but cannot move, came alive in my mind. She's not paralyzed physically, but emotionally. Her awareness is intact, but she feels stuck. Helpless. The root of her helplessness? The noise, the mental disturbance, the distraction that fogs her once clear and affectionate intentions. At the same time, I had another realization. This woman, who just went through the intense ordeal of a natural delivery, whose most sensitive parts are still healing, is thinking about how she couldn't ask her husband if he was hungry, despite others being around to care for him. That's the heart of a woman, tender, giving, quietly hurting. Do you remember I said you in the beginning of this video that some remedies don't make your face smile, they make your heart smile? This was one of those moments. The whole case whispered something profound. It spoke of an affectionate nature, someone whose love language is to nurture and care. A kind of love that isn't loud, but warm and grounding, motherly. In just 3 days, her symptoms disappeared. Her sleep returned. Her digestion normalized. She smiled again. And honestly, I thoroughly enjoyed being part of her journey. There was something deeply fulfilling about it. And then, on the 3rd day, I asked her gently, "Did you have any dreams after the medication?" Dreams, after all, are windows into the subconscious. They reveal what the conscious mind tries to bury: needs, wounds, desires. Her eyes lit up slightly and she said, "Yes. I saw I was close to my husband, physically close. And I felt warmth. That warmth was more than physical, it was emotional, healing, and symbolic. That one dream showed me how the subconscious was already realigning. Her anxiety had found its outlet and comfort. Anxiety isn't just a word in homeopathy, it wears many colors depending on the remedy. Arsenicum shows it as restlessness, frantic movements, never settling, just like a racehorse. Fast. Visible. Tangible. But COCCULUS? COCCULUS holds its anxiety like a secret. On the surface, they appear calm, too calm. But inside, a storm brews in silence. They move slowly, gently, with a quiet grace. Every action is calculated so no one is hurt. They are sentimental. Deeply affected by even a harsh word. For them, time slips away too fast, not because they're distracted, but because they do everything with so much thought and care. Their life cycle has its own rhythm: self-care, nursing others, maintaining flow and balance, ultimately leading to acceptance. And that is how healing begins. I told you right from the very beginning, I would be sharing my personal experience with this remedy. Because the moment you've had a personal connection with a remedy, you begin to understand it on a much deeper, almost sacred level. You start noticing nuances and emotions that no book could ever capture. It's as if the remedy begins to speak to you in a language beyond words and emotional resonance. And let me tell you, COCCULUS is not just any remedy. It's a soul soother, the most calming, tranquil, peace-giving essence I've ever encountered. A remedy that doesn't just make you feel better, it makes your heart smile, simply with its presence. This isn't your run-of-the-mill, textbook remedy. Think of Platina: bold, arrogant, always announcing, "I'm important. I am superior." But the energy around Platina? It often feels heavy, cold, and unwelcome. People may respect her, but in their hearts, they long for her absence. There's a silent grief in her presence. She may feel like royalty, but she rules a lonely kingdom in human, proud, aloof. But COCCULUS? Oh. COCCULUS is the opposite. Let's talk about the doctrine behind it. The chemical component of COCCULUS is picrotoxin, a powerful substance that acts directly on the nervous system. Its effect? It pulls a person out of both ends of the emotional spectrum. It brings dullness in absence and overwhelm in presence. That's right, if someone in your family is a COCCULUS, you'll feel life is a little grayer when they're not around. And when they are, everything lights up. Their mere presence gives you peace, like a warm blanket wrapped around your soul. I truly pray that every human gets to have at least one COCCULUS in their life. It could be your wife, husband, mother, father, sibling, or cousin sister. I feel blessed to say I had one, my cousin sister. Being from South Bombay, she had this zest for life, this deep-seated urge to introduce me to the beautiful things I never had access to. She'd take me to the best cafes for donuts, show me sea views that took my breath away, groom my style, take me shopping in places I didn't even know existed. She introduced me to her female friends, invited me to picnics, opened up a world I had only imagined. As a child studying in 8th grade, I wasn't allowed to do any of those things. My parents were strict. But she'd put her heart into convincing them. She'd say, "Let her come with me, I'll take care of everything." And she did. She became the older sister I never had, the best friend I never needed to search for. Growing up, I never felt the absence of a female friend because I had her. COCCULUS energy is magnetic. Their aura? Pure calmness. Pure warmth. It's like sitting next to a fireplace on a cold evening, safe, soothing, gentle. When I joined homeopathy college, I remember being taught all the classic, popular remedies: pulsatilla, platina, phosphorus, belladonna. I remember thinking, is she phosphorus? But something didn't fit. I had seen her all my life, and she was never selfish, never superficial. We had never even fought. That confusion lingered for 4 years. And then one day, she fell sick. I took her case and gave her COCCULUS. And she was fine. Gloriously fine. It all made sense. She couldn't have been phosphorus. That wasn't her truth. COCCULUS was. We used to visit each other every weekend, every holiday. And her COCCULUS nature showed in everything. She felt everything deeply, every joy, every moment, every emotion. And when she felt something beautiful, her first thought was always, how do I make her feel this too? That's COCCULUS. They experience joy and immediately want to pass it on to make others feel the same happiness. Independent. Strong. Soft. All at once. That was her. She made every visit a memory. Every outing, a gift. With her, I experienced a kind of joy I can't put into words. And now that she's married and living in another country, I miss her deeply. That's the kind of affection COCCULUS brings into your life. Healing. Giving. Safe. You don't have to guard yourself with them, you can just be. Your defense systems switch off. You melt. The connection with them runs so deep, it becomes intuitive. You start getting dreams, gut feelings, silent messages, just like a mother feels when her child is in pain. That's what happens when affection runs so high. When they leave, the nostalgia is not just emotional, it's physical. You ache. You feel the absence of a light that once lived in your world. In the doctrine we studied, we read that COCCULUS can make you feel overwhelmed in their presence and dull in their absence. But let me tell you, this isn't just theory. This is lived experience. And it's so real. They are so deeply sensitive to others' needs, they sense them before the other person even says a word. And they want to fulfill those needs silently, tenderly. Their presence? You start feeling it even before they walk into the room. That's the magic of COCCULUS. That's how rare, how irreplaceable, how special this remedy is. That's all for today. I hope you felt this remedy. Not just learned it, but felt it deep. If you did, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and take good care of yourself. I'll see you in the next learning session.
क्या उसका पैकेज बढ़ने से उसकी जिंदगी बढ़ेगी? एक दिन वो मरने वाला है, वो कितना भी कमा ले यहाँ छोड़ के जाना है। और आपने कई लोगों को अपने हाथों से कब्र में उतारा होगा। आप देखेंगे कि जो कब्र में जाता है उसके साथ में कुछ नहीं होता है। अगर कोई आदमी बस से उतर रहा और कोई उसके हाथ से कुछ लेकर भागे, उसके पीछे वो भी भागेगा, कम से कम चिल्लाएगा, कम से कम वो कंप्लेन करेगा। लेकिन एक आदमी कब्र में जब उसको रखा जाता है, उसके सब चीजें उससे छीन चुकी होती है, उसको सिर्फ एक कफन दिया जाता है और वो भी एकदम सादा होता है और उसके ऊपर मिट्टी डाली जाती है। एक जमाना वो था कि वो अपने कपड़ों पर लगी हुई धूल को भी बर्दाश्त नहीं कर पाता था, लेकिन आज एक ऐसा दिन आया है कि उसके चेहरे पर भी मिट्टी डाली जा रही है और वो अपने चेहरे से मिट्टी हटा नहीं सकता है। एक दिन हम सब पर ऐसा आने वाला है।